2:15 p.m. I can see the Hotel Coral Playa 300 yards along the beach. We could be at Karnak in that tourist hotel by the necropolis, where Helen befriended her Stuttgart dentists and first set in train this epic of the amateur camera. The ultimate home movie, perhaps, but so far everything has gone well, thanks to $2,500 worth of cine equipment and an obliging Barcelona camera specialist. Renting this apartment was the only difficult moment. Delivering a second key to my door, did the suspicious Swedish manager catch a glimpse of the complex tripods and clamps I was assembling by the bedroom window? Like the barbette of some sinister assassination weapon, which it is in a way. Thinking of the electrifying image that will be the climax of this film almost derails my mind. Despite everything, the degrading but exciting months of anger and suspicion, I feel the first hint of an erection. 2:18 p.m. I can pick out our own suite. Helen's black water skis arranged like runes on the balcony. As yet there is no sign of movement. My main concern is with the two balconies of our suite and the cluster of adjacent rooms. Wait. While my attention has been on my own bedroom, impatient for Helen to make her first appearance as the star of this film, I have failed to notice that a man in a red bathrobe is standing on a balcony 5 floors above. An American journalist named Anderson. He is joined by Rademachers. Panicking, I realize that the young Danish heart surgeon has returned half an hour earlier than I estimated. My zoom may close in on a shot bolt. 2:22 p.m. The hotel has become a hive of activity as the guests return from the dining room and prepare for siesta. Already I recognize dozens of my neighbors in their bedrooms, the men taking off their shoes, the women testing the beach towels on the balconies and examining their teeth in the dressing table mirrors. These commonplace but almost meaningless activities have an extraordinary fascination. For years I have watched them in 100 hotels. For once I am glad that Helen has failed to make her entrance. With her entrenched rationality, her over-calculated approach to life in general, and the needs of her sexuality in particular, she has always failed to understand the real significance of my obsession with the private behavior of my neighbors. She cannot grasp this aimless minor traffic around their bodies, the application of sun oil, the dabbing of scent into this or that fossa. Ah, Helen at last. The central balcony of the film has been mounted by my wife. 2:24 p.m. Wayward and erotic, faithless spouse but excellent travelling companion, she is gazing uncannily, straight towards my camera. Helen brushing her hair with a reflex hand, revealing the strong muscles of her neck and making the greatest play with her profile, for the benefit of the audience watching her from the balconies above and below. For all this attention, she is dressed discreetly in my white toweling robe. No doubt a signal to someone in my absence. Moving my eyes from her, I notice that on the surrounding balconies stands the full complement of her admirers, that troupe of beach partners, one of whom will play the supporting role in this film. Helen with her suitors, and I with my Swiss beau. 2:26 p.m. Look at the quickening of heads and eyes. I feel a familiar surge of excitement as I make a last inventory of my rivals. Rademachers, the pedantic Danish surgeon who took us snorkeling yesterday, has returned to his room 3 floors diagonally above ours. I eliminate him. I move to his neighbour, a 30-year-old Brighton antique dealer, whose speedboat during our first week sat reversing in the shallows 10 yards from the beach where Helen and I lay under our umbrellas. Engaging but unscrupulous, he too is taking in his opposition, principally Fradier, the Paris comic strip publisher 2 floors above, leaning on his balcony rail beside his attractive wife while openly admiring Helen. But Fradier is moving out of frame. By the logic of this film, he can be dropped from the cast list. As the camera moves nearer, I approach the main stage of this vertical drama, Helen at the center. I realize that I have only been fully at ease with my wife while watching her through the viewfinder of her camera. Even within the private space of our various hotel rooms, I prefer her seen through a lens, emblematic of my own needs and fantasies rather than existing in her own right. At one time, this rightly outraged her, but recently she's begun to play along with my obsession. For hours I watch her, picking her nose and arguing with me about something as I lie on the bed with the camera to my eye, fascinated by the shifting geometries of her thighs and shoulders, the diagrams of her face. 2:29 p.m. Where is she? I wonder if the German engineers have at last overreached themselves. I can almost reach out and touch the balconies. Only 3 now, our own sandwich between the Lawrences above us, an affable English couple from Manchester, and a 40-year-old Irish pharmacologist below, with whom we have made no contact. 3 have involuntarily gatecrashed their way into my film. Meanwhile, Helen could be anywhere in the hotel. Should I realign the camera? There she is. I catch my breath. With aching relief, my loins are at full cock, long before the heavily built figure of the Irish pharmacologist steps deferentially into the sitting room, locking the door behind him. 2:32 p.m. Reverie of pain, lust, and above all, childlike hate, in which the slights and antagonisms of a lifetime are subsumed in this unresolvable confrontation between fear and desire, the need and refusal to face the basilisk stare of Helen's sexuality. All these modulated by logic of the zoom, by the geometries of balconies, and the laminated gleam of a fashion magazine on a white sheet, the terrifying reductive authority of the encroaching lens. I seemed to be no more than 3 feet from the nearer of the 2 balconies, watching Helen and her lover like a theatre-goer in a front stall. So close am I that I fully expect them to incorporate me in their dialogue. There is an unforced casualness, a degree of indifference, so marked that it is hard to believe they are about to copulate on my bed. Leached away by the camera lens, the dimension of depth is missing from the room, and the 2 figures have an increasingly abstract relationship to each other and to the rectilinear forms of the settee, walls, and ceiling. In this context, almost anything is possible, where movements are a series of postural equations that must have some significance other than their apparent one. 2:36 p.m. I am no more than a few steps from the Irishman, who is undressing beside the bed, revealing a muscular physique of a kind that has never previously appealed to Helen. Already I feel my anger begin to fade. Annoyingly, my erection also slackens. The transit of the camera across the last 20 minutes, which should have brought me to a positive Golgotha of last humiliation, has in fact achieved a gradual abstraction of emotion, an assuagement of all anger and regret.